Imagine we discovered an island with an uncontacted tribe of people who believe murder is the best thing you can do, where instead of a hug and a kiss, they give you the sharp end of a spear. Are they just different, or are they wrong? For a long time, I, like many people, thought morality was subjective, that our ideas of right and wrong are really just personal preferences, shaped by our evolved instincts and the culture we're brought up in. But there's something strange with this idea. If someone commits a murder, you don't just dislike it in the way you might dislike pineapple on pizza. You have a visceral belief that this is wrong, as if it's a matter of fact. This shows us that morality at least feels objective. On top of this, it seems like our sense of morality would be true in any situation, no matter what people think. Even if there was some kind of international vote and 99% of people said that murder was good, would you really think murder was good? I certainly wouldn't. I'd think they were misled and they had a twisted understanding of what being good is. And this seems to imply some kind of objective moral standard. And by this, I mean treating the questions of right and wrong as a factual matter, the same way we treat the question of whether Cristiano Ronaldo has ginger hair. It's not a matter of personal opinion, because there's a real Cristiano Ronaldo out there that we can use as the objective standard, independent of what individuals or cultures happen to believe. If you're wondering why this question of objective morality matters, it's not just an abstract philosophical quandary. Your view on morality has a huge impact on how you live your life, how you think about justice, responsibility, meaning, and of course, what it actually means to be a moral person. So what if there really is a true moral law of the universe that we're appealing to when we make ethical judgments? In this video, I will explore what I think is perhaps the best argument for objective morality. An argument proposed by many philosophers, and perhaps most famously by C.S. Lewis. One criticism of this idea that may well have occurred to you already is that our sense of morality could have simply evolved through natural selection. Someone may say that communities of people that helped each other were more likely to survive than those that didn't. And if this seems like a sufficient explanation to you, I understand why. But today I will explore why there may be more to it than that. After all, we evolved our ability to see things through natural selection, but that doesn't mean when I look and see a tree, there isn't actually a tree there. In the same way, our evolved sense of morality could be the perception of real moral truths. So with that clarified, let's take a look at the argument C.S. Lewis and many other philosophers think points towards objective morality. The first thing Lewis asks us to consider is something I've already touched on in some detail, which is the fact that we as humans all appeal to a standard of right and wrong. When people have a moral disagreement, they don't simply say, "I personally disagree with you." They use words like, "that's wrong," or "unfair," or "evil," or "you shouldn't have done that." To us, it isn't just a matter of preference. It feels objective. This makes morality a very unique thing in that it dictates how we ought to act. We also expect others to understand moral truths. If someone doesn't understand what we view to be morally correct, we're inclined to tell them that they're wrong. Needless to say, this is very different to how we behave when someone prefers a different flavour of ice cream to us. And this moral standard seems to be relatively universal across cultures throughout history. Now, I'm not saying that all cultures fully agree on what is morally correct, but there are certain core ideas that will be found in all human societies. These are beliefs like, you should not murder without any cause, or you shouldn't betray your group without a good reason. For all our disagreements, humans on the whole agree on our most fundamental moral intuitions. This is something C.S. Lewis calls the law of human nature. Of course, people disagree about morality, but disagreement doesn't mean it's subjective. People disagree about physics and mathematics too, yet there are still correct answers. And look at how our society has progressed morally, like the abolition of slavery or the outlawing of child labour. Did we just have a change in our tastes, or did we move closer to something true? Moral progress only makes sense if there is a standard to measure it against. If morality were entirely relative, the ideas of progress would be meaningless. We could only say that society's preferences had changed, not that they improved. The next key part of the argument, as Lewis presents it, is that our morality is very different from our evolved instincts, and it often demands we act against them. One way to illustrate this is to imagine you're in a burning building and someone urgently needs your help. In this situation, you'll likely feel two instincts. The first would be the instinct to help the person, and the second would be the instinct to run away and save yourself. Both of these instincts have evolved in us through natural selection. However, if someone overcame their instinct to run away and chose to try and help the person, we consider this a morally good thing. This shows us that morality is some kind of third thing, and it's separate from our base instincts. It seems to be on a higher level, and a standard against which we can judge our instincts. And our moral sense will often make us overcome our base impulses to do things that are harmful to our own survival, like by endangering yourself to help others. It's also true that morality isn't entirely based on outcomes. It's much more complex than that. For example, what would make you feel more upset? Someone who trips you up on mistake, or someone who tries to trip you up but fails? Personally, I'd be much more upset with the person who tried to trip me up, even if it didn't actually cause me to fall over. But why is this? It seems to show us that morality is deeper than just a method of bringing about certain outcomes. And on top of that, if morality was just something we evolved to improve the survival of ourselves and our group, how come we judge so many of our survival instincts to be immoral? We even judge some of our altruistic instincts as immoral. For example, if you wanted to help a criminal escape prison, this instinct does come from compassion and care, but it still violates our sense of right and wrong. Perhaps our instincts are more like the individual notes on a piano, and morality is the sheet music that tells us which notes to play. Another point C.S. Lewis makes is that moral laws are very unique in that they don't describe what things do. Most laws are descriptive, like the law of gravity, which was developed by observing and describing how things behave. But the moral law tells us how we should behave, and nobody is able to fully live up to the moral standard that exists. This shows that the moral law doesn't come from observing how people or societies behave, but instead it's a prescriptive law that tells them how they should behave. It's also clear that the moral law doesn't come from social consensus or our own preferences, because we're able to morally judge both of them, and we'll always find them failing to live up to it in some way. This all seems to show us that morality exists over and above these things. And when we consider the possibility of morality being a thing that transcends instincts, desires, and cultures, it seems that objective morality may be the best explanation. Perhaps we don't invent moral truths, but instead we discover them. Maybe morality could be a law written into the universe, like mathematics. From this, many philosophers like C.S. Lewis determined that the moral law is built into reality, and it's something that we can perceive with our conscience, much like how we perceive the appearance of physical objects using our eyes. One question to ask then is, what does this mean? And where would the moral law even come from? While I won't go into great detail, there are different philosophical explanations for this objective morality. The most prominent, and the one held by C.S. Lewis, is that there is a moral lawgiver, or God, that created the universe with an objective moral standard. This seems a plausible explanation, and one that is very intuitive to understand. However, there are also secular or atheist ideas of objective morality, which are argued by individuals like Sam Harris in his book, The Moral Landscape. Whether you believe in God or not, objective morality is on the table. So, what does this mean for us? Well, if objective morality exists, it's not just an abstract idea. It affects how we live, how we judge our own actions, and how we hold others accountable. It gives weight to courage, justice, compassion, and honesty, and it challenges us to rise above base instincts and social pressures. If this is the case, we don't invent moral truths, we discover them. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.